Okay, so get ready because today we're diving headfirst into nanotechnology.
Ooh, nanotechnology.
Yeah, we're talking manipulating matter
Like really small stuff.
at the atomic level.
Wow.
Seriously, can you imagine working with building blocks a billion times smaller than a meter?
That's that's tiny.
It's mind-boggling, and it's like science fiction is becoming reality, especially when you think about what our source material, nanotechnology, ethical implications of extending human life and overcoming biological limits has to say about it.
It really does push those boundaries, doesn't it?
It does. The potential benefits are, are just incredible.
Yeah.
Imagine a world like without cancer,
Oh, wow.
where we can just repair cellular damage and we can live longer and healthier lives.
And even like enhance our cognitive function,
Yeah,
like boost our brain.
boost our brains. It all sounds incredible, but
Yeah.
I can't help but wonder, just because we can do all this, should we?
That's always the question, isn't it? It's like the core question with any kind of new technology. But especially with something like this that has the potential to really change who we are,
I think that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating.
for sure.
So let's start with some of the stuff the source brings up, like the potential benefits,
Yeah,
extending lifespan, eliminating diseases. It sounds like a utopian dream.
it does.
But I mean, is it really all, sunshine and roses? Wouldn't living like for centuries completely change society as we know it?
Oh, absolutely. And not to mention, what about the potential for inequality?
Right.
I mean, you bring up a good point there. The source material actually talks about some concerns that have been echoed by philosophers like Michael Sandel.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and he argues that if we start enhancing ourselves through technology, it might actually kind of undermine our appreciation for the inherent value of human effort and our acceptance of our limitations.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point.
So it's not just about the practical challenges, but also about what makes us human in the first place.
Yeah, and I think that's something that we really need to think about carefully as we're considering this technology.
Absolutely. So, like, if someone chooses not to enhance themselves, would they be at a disadvantage in a society like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a possibility, right? I mean, imagine a world where the wealthy can afford to extend their lives indefinitely,
Oh, wow.
while others can't.
It's like a whole other level.
Yeah, it's not hard to see how that could exacerbate, the power structures that already exist and lead to a whole new level of social stratification.
And even beyond that, what about the strain on resources?
Oh, absolutely.
If people are living longer, wouldn't that put, like, even more pressure on our planet?
I mean, yeah, that's a very real concern, and one that the source doesn't shy away from at all.
Okay.
They also talk about the potential for unintended consequences.
Oh, right.
I mean, we're talking about, you know, essentially tinkering with the very building blocks of life here.
Right.
So, who knows what kind of unforeseen ripple effects that could occur.
It's kind of overwhelming to think about,
Yeah,
honestly.
it is.
It's like opening Pandora's box.
Yeah, it really is.
But I guess that's why we're having this conversation.
Exactly.
We need to be grappling with these questions now before the technology gets even further along.
Yeah, I mean, we're already seeing some pretty remarkable advancements, and it's only going to accelerate from here. So yeah, the sooner we can start thinking about these things, the better.
So, to the point about playing God,
Yeah.
the source also kind of dives into that,
Mm-hmm.
about whether or not we're crossing a line by manipulating our biology.
It's a very valid concern, I think, and I think people have been, wrestling with that question for centuries.
I have to admit, I'm a little torn on that one, honestly.
Yeah.
Part of me is like excited about the possibilities, of overcoming our limitations. Isn't that what we've always strived for? Building a better world, living better lives.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think that is part of what defines progress, right? But the question is, at what cost? And at what point does manipulating our biology change us so much that we're no longer recognizably human?
Well, that's a really good question.
It is. It is. It really gets to the heart of what we're talking about here.
So I guess that leads us to another big theme in the source.
Yeah.
About the impact of this technology on our understanding of what it means to be human.
Absolutely.
Like, if you can enhance ourselves, does that diminish our humanity in some way?
It's a question that philosophers have been grappling with for centuries.
Right.
And the source specifically raises the idea of authenticity.
Ooh.
If we start modifying ourselves so drastically, are we still our true selves? Or are we creating these artificial versions that, while they might be improved in some ways, lack something essential?
I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, it's a really interesting way to think about it.
So we all want to be the best versions of ourselves, but does
Man.
that mean that we should constantly be like striving to upgrade our bodies and minds? Where's the line between self-improvement and becoming something, I don't know, else?
Yeah, it's a slippery slope for
Mm.
sure, and I think that's why it's so important to have these conversations.
Mm.
Um, as we delve deeper into this source material, you know, we'll be exploring those philosophical implications of blurring that line between natural and artificial, and what that could mean for the future of humanity.
Wow. Okay, that's some heavy stuff.
It is. It is.
Sounds like this deep dive is going to make us like rethink everything we thought we knew about ourselves.
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
So what's next on our journey?
Well, let's move from the broad philosophical implications to something a bit more specific. Like, the source talks a lot about the idea of life extension,
Okay.
which is obviously very controversial.
Right.
But imagine a world where people are living healthy lives for, 150 years, 200 years, maybe even longer.
Wow.
It's a concept that both fascinates and terrifies me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have some thoughts on this too.
Oh, absolutely. We'll
Yeah.
have to dive into that.
Well, yeah, it is a Pandora's box.
Mm-hmm.
And the source material, doesn't shy away from that at all.
Right.
One of the biggest concerns around life extension
Yeah.
is overpopulation. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
If people are living longer, we're going to need more resources, more space. We'll need to plan so much more carefully for future generations.
Yeah.
It's not a simple thing to solve.
It's like those sci-fi movies where people are like assigned a specific lifespan
Oh, yeah.
to manage resources.
Wow.
I never thought that would become reality. But on
Yeah.
the other hand,
Yeah.
think about everything you could do
Yep.
with an extra century or two of life.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You could like master multiple professions.
Right.
Travel the world like multiple times over.
It's true. The possibilities they're very enticing.
Mm-hmm.
But, the source also points out that
Yeah.
life extension could really, worsen existing inequalities.
Oh, how so?
Well, imagine, when this technology first comes out,
Yeah.
it's only available to, the ultra-wealthy.
Oh, okay.
Then you've got a situation where the elites could essentially rule for centuries.
Oh, wow.
And that raises so many questions, right, about power and how would societies adapt to those kinds of differences in lifespans.
It's almost like creating a new class system
It is.
based on longevity.
Exactly.
Those who can afford to live longer would have such a huge advantage in everything.
Oh, for sure.
Like accumulating wealth, knowledge, influence.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't be a level playing field at all.
Not at all, no.
And you know what? That brings up another point I thought was really interesting from the source.
Yeah.
About the philosophical implications of this whole thing.
Oh, totally.
Some people think that our mortality is what gives life meaning.
I've heard that.
Like the fact that our time is limited
Right.
makes our experiences that much more precious
Absolutely.
and motivates us to, really make the most of each moment.
I mean, it's that whole you don't know what you've got till it's gone kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, if we knew we had centuries to live,
Mm-hmm.
would we be as driven to achieve our goals?
Right.
To connect with people, to appreciate all those little things.
Like, would anything even matter?
Exactly. And the source actually brings up
What is it?
the philosopher Martin Heidegger,
Oh, okay.
who argued that it's our awareness of death.
Okay.
That gives life its urgency and its purpose.
Wow.
So if you just eliminate death from the equation, would we risk becoming complacent?
Mm-hmm.
Losing our sense of wonder and appreciation for the world around us.
That's a really fascinating point,
It is.
although a little unsettling.
Yeah, it's a bit of a paradox, right?
It is.
We'd have all the time in the world, but maybe we wouldn't have the motivation to do anything with it.
Wow.
It's a strange thing to think about.
It is.
And it really just highlights how important it is
Yeah.
to think about the psychological impact
Right.
and the societal impacts of living longer.
Yeah.
It's not just about adding years.
Right.
It's about understanding how those years could change our values, our priorities, our whole perception of what it means to be human.
Absolutely. It sounds like we need to be approaching this with a lot more than just, scientific curiosity. We need to be thinking about the ethics, the philosophies, like
Okay.
all of it before we even consider making this a reality.
I completely agree. And, the source stresses that
Does it?
it stresses the urgency of setting some clear ethical guidelines and regulations for nanotechnology.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
We can't just let this technology develop unchecked.
Right.
We have to be proactive, in shaping where it goes, making sure it aligns with our values, and serves humanity.
I mean, that brings up another important point from the source
Yeah.
about the importance of, like, an open discussion.
Oh, absolutely. This isn't something that can be decided by scientists
Right.
or policymakers on their own.
Yeah.
It's crucial that we get the public involved in this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure everyone has a voice in shaping the future of this technology.
And I think it's important to remember that this isn't just some, like, futuristic concept.
Right.
Nanotechnology is already being used in so many different fields.
Yeah, absolutely. From medicine to manufacturing.
It's already here.
It is. So the choices we make today
Right.
about how we develop this and regulate it, it's going to have huge consequences for generations.
It makes me think about, like, how we handle nuclear weapons.
Oh, interesting.
Like, there's global oversight
Right.
to prevent, misuse. And so, I mean,
Yeah.
would we need something similar for nanotechnology?
That's a really good question, and it's one that we have to consider seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine the potential for harm if this technology falls into the wrong hands.
Okay, now that's a little unsettling.
Yeah, it's not something to take lightly, for sure.
So what can we do?
Well,
How can we make sure that it's used for good and not for, some kind of global domination or something?
that's the tricky part.
Yeah.
There's no easy answer, but the source does have a few ideas.
Okay.
For one, increasing international research collaborations could be really helpful
Okay.
because that way knowledge and advancements are shared openly,
Mm-hmm.
which reduces the risk of anyone having like a monopoly on the tech.
That makes sense. So, like, if everyone's working together,
Yeah.
it's harder for one person to go rogue.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Another key thing is investing in ethics training.
Oh,
For
okay.
scientists and engineers that are working with nanotechnology,
Yeah.
we need them to have a really strong sense of responsibility. And we need to equip them to really think through the implications of what they're doing.
So it's not just about the know-how, it's about, like, the moral compass.
Exactly. And of course, we need big public education campaigns.
Right.
We have to inform people about the benefits and the risks
Mm-hmm.
so they can participate in shaping how this technology develops and how we use it.
So a more informed public can hold people accountable
Exactly.
and make sure that the technology serves us and not the other way around.
That's exactly right.
That's a great point.
And I think that brings us to one of the most mind-boggling parts of this conversation.
Oh, what's that?
The idea of a post-human future.
Okay, wait, now we're getting into, like, science fiction, right?
It sounds like it, but the source really does talk about this concept,
Okay.
that nanotechnology could eventually lead to a point where humans, transcend our limitations
Uh,
and merge with machines.
like, we've seen that in movies.
Yeah, we have.
But it's starting to feel like a real possibility.
It is.
So we're talking about cybernetic implants, enhanced brains,
Yeah.
maybe even, like, uploading our consciousness into computers.
I mean, it's a pretty wild thought, right?
That's next level stuff.
It is.
It really makes you question, like, what does it even mean to be human?
Exactly.
If we're so intertwined with technology, what happens to our sense of self, our consciousness,
Mhm.
our soul?
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
My brain is kind of short-circuiting a little bit,
I think that's understandable.
but I guess that's the point.
It is.
We're on the verge of something huge.
We are.
It could completely change what it means to be human.
It really could, and that's why these ethical conversations are so important.
Yeah,
We have to think about what kind of future we want to create.
right.
What are the values we want to uphold? And what does it mean to live a good life when the lines between human and machine are blurred?
Man, we've gone from the micro to the macro here.
We have.
From manipulating atoms to, like, pondering the fate of humanity.
It has been quite a journey.
It really has. Yeah, it has been mind-expanding for sure.
Really makes you think.
I feel like we've covered everything.
Yeah.
From wiping out diseases to uploading our minds into computers.
It's a thought.
Talk about a deep dive.
It really has been. And I think, the source material did a great job of laying it all out for us.
It did.
All those complexities, right?
Right.
We talked about inequality, the whole playing God thing, extending lifespans.
We even talked about a post-human future,
We did.
which I always thought was just, sci-fi.
Yeah, it's always out there.
But now it feels like, whoa, this could really happen.
It's getting closer and closer.
It really challenges what it means to be human.
It does. It really does.
I think that's one of the big takeaways from this whole deep dive.
Yeah.
We need to be thinking about this stuff now
Absolutely.
before the tech gets even more advanced.
We can't just wait for the future to happen to us, right?
No, we've got to be a part of it.
We've got to shape it, make sure it's, working for us, not the other way around.
So where do we go from here? What can we do, like, as individuals to make sure this technology is used responsibly?
Well, first of all, stay informed.
Okay.
Keep learning about all the advances that are happening.
Mhm.
but also really engage with the ethics, with the societal implications.
Right.
Read articles, listen to podcasts, have these conversations.
It's easy to get caught up in the science,
It is.
but we can't forget about the human side of it.
That's so important.
Another thing, maybe support organizations
Oh, yeah, for sure.
that are promoting responsible development.
There are some great groups out there
Okay, good.
advocating for ethical guidelines, public engagement.
So it's not just about talking about it, we can actually do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's good to know.
But I think the most important thing
Yeah.
is to never stop asking questions,
Okay.
challenge assumptions, listen to different perspectives,
Have those debates.
have those debates, yeah.
We're all in this together, right?
We are, at the end of the day.
The choices we make today are going to affect everyone in the future.
It's a big responsibility, for sure.
This deep dive has given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
It's been, fascinating, but also, whoa, a little scary.
It is a lot to process, I think, but it's so important to engage with it.
I totally agree. There was one question from the source that really stuck with me.
Oh, yeah?
It said, as we stand at this crossroads, what kind of future do you envision for humanity in the age of nanotechnology?
That's a good one.
It really is.
It's something we should all be thinking about.
For sure.
Hopefully, by having these conversations,
Yeah.
we can all work together to create a future where this technology benefits everybody.
Well, that's a great note to end on.
It is.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into nanotechnology.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep those minds open.